Accountability is obviously a very key component to the business planning process. We talk about it a lot during our seminar. But lots of people have different definitions of what accountability is. How would you define it? What is it, and why is it important?
I think inherently accountability, people understand what that means, but I think it does mean different things to different people. And I think in terms of the business planning, it's as simple and as complicated as you want it to be. To me, accountability is that you're sharing your goals, objectives, action plans, dreams, whatever that may be, with someone else. You're making that essentially public. And then they do the same with you, and then you meet with them somewhat regularly, as defined as what you think is appropriate, and you talk about what those things are consistently with each other. And the idea behind that is I think it helps you with discipline and trying to make sure that you get those things done on a consistent basis by merely sharing that with somebody and meeting with them with some consistency. So on that note, as we're talking about accountability, we've talked earlier about your work and some examples that you've had in your office with accountability. You want to share one of those?
Sure. I mean, it's funny. I think there's so many different examples of it with accountability. There's both the individual side and kind of what we're talking about here on an individual basis, on a producer, for lack of a better term, producer basis, and then there's the corporate side. So on the individual side, being part of a mastermind group and being able to go back and forth and say, here's what my goals are, here are the action items and objectives I need to do this week. How did I do, and where am I at? Really accomplishes a lot towards getting somebody to the goals that they need to get to. At the same time, there's the corporate side. The corporate side is, you're part of an overall organization, and you need to be meeting on a weekly basis with, if you have employees, with your staff to see how they're doing on their short-term goals. So, I have a staff. We meet on a weekly basis and sometimes multiple times a week, but typically on a weekly basis, and we look at those short-term goals. What are the things that they need to be focused on for that week? How are they making progress towards those goals? And if there's anything that we need to tweak or modify, or if there's maybe distractions getting in the way, how do we get around those? But it shouldn't, we'll get into this a little bit, but it shouldn't be a negative conversation. I just saw a study the other day that said 80% of employers have no clue how to even start to deal with accountability. At the same time, 90% of the employees that responded to the survey said it's really important to them as part of their development.
Yeah.
So it's having that
really important. Nobody's doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So being able to with my staff, I have meetings once a week to check in on real short-term goals. What do you want to do this week? What did you do? What are the things holding you back? How can I help support you? But it's ensuring that we are making continual progress towards their goals.
You talk about accountability in a corporate environment, and the people that I talk to and the seminars that we've done, people start to see that as a negative. You talk about how people see accountability as a negative thing, a negative term.
Yeah, I think back to one of my earliest jobs, and it was in more of a very corporate setting. And I remember it was the Monday morning meeting, and it was you're gonna go in, you better have what you did last week, and you better be dialed in, ready to go. And if you're not, you're gonna your feet are gonna be held to the fire in front of your peers, by the way, and it's not gonna be a very fun meeting. So people think that I think accountability often is synonymous with with micromanaging. And if it's done the right way, it really shouldn't be. It should be a positive, but I think, we've all been in those meetings where it's, here's what you were supposed to do. Why didn't you do it? And it's
your TPS report.
It's your TPS report. It's not a very fun situation. So, to that point, as we look at the structure of how accountability really should be done and how can businesses and individuals leverage accountability, it brings into question, what should an accountability partner look like? Who would you meet with? What should the frequency of that be? And what are the things that you would cover in meeting with your accountability partner?
Yeah, I think there's the idea that if you have an accountability partner, they have to be in the same industry. And I don't think that's true. I think you can meet with anybody as long as they both have a plan and you're meeting once a week, by example, and you're reviewing. I would review my action items, because those action items roll up into completing your objectives, what rolls up into completing your one big goal. But you've got to be prepared. You've got to have someone who's prepared. You've got to have somebody who shows up on time. You have somebody who has a business plan, who's serious about their business. And I think it's as simple as that. I think more of it is the continuity and consistency of meeting on a regular basis, which I would do weekly if it were me. You could even do it on the phone if you wanted to. That's really the key to it, more than anything else.
Right.
So the question for you, how does this help you achieve your goals and objectives? Like, so you're meeting and you got an accountability partner, you're meeting with some consistency. What's the end result?
It's just so crucial to your plan, right? Accountability is essentially the capstone to this entire thing. You know, you can have a plan, you can have objectives and action items, but if you're not doing the objectives and action items, then what's the point, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have somebody that's meeting with you frequently on a consistent basis and saying, what are the things you should be doing? What are the things you said you're going to do? How are you making progress towards them? You can have fun with it. But if you follow that step and you allow accountability to tie in the plan to the objectives and action items, it's going to allow you to hit your goals. As you go through that process, if you're going through accountability and there's things that you're doing that aren't having an impact on your plan, or you're just not doing them, then you're able to see that in real time and be able to say, you know what, maybe that's not an objective or an action item that I need to focus on. So you can look at how you need to modify your plan in order to achieve your goals overall. So I think accountability really, again, I think it's the capstone to the entire business planning process. It's probably the most it is likely the most misunderstood, but it also is probably that section that has or that component that's got the opportunity to have the greatest impact on your overall goals.
You know, one thing that you and I joke about a lot is you can have a plan, and even if you haven't gone to one of our seminars, or you don't know how to put that together that's concise and it's measurable and it makes sense and it's achievable and it fits into the RUMBAT and other things that we're going to discuss, you still have the opportunity of having a certain level of success by merely having an accountability partner that you're going to meet with on a consistent basis. But to your point, which I think is really a critical point, is that the accountability portion of that is a built-in discipline, and it's a built-in opportunity for you to share something and review that consistently. And if it's not doing well, as we do in our group, quarterly we review the plan and determine if you've got 5 initiatives in there and you haven't done 2 of them, the chances of you doing them by the end of the first quarter or second quarter is about 0. So get rid of them and refocus on the 3 that you're doing well. And that is, again, that's a great part about accountability, as you mentioned.
Sure.
So I think that's all we got, right?
Yeah, I think that's accountability in a nutshell, and I think we've done a good job of diffusing the negativity portion of it and turning it into a positive.
Yeah, I think that's it. Well done. Cheers.
Cheers.